Hello, testing the microphone. Testing the microphone. Please let me know if this thing is on, if it is connected. And we'll get started momentarily. If anybody is listening, if anybody's in the chat, please let me know if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Because I need to know if this is connected correctly. This is a issue every time I do a live Q&A. I can hear myself. Check that out. Can you hear me? Because I need to know if this is connected correctly. This is all right, we got one dude in the chat. Every time I do. Can you hear me? Am I coming in clear? Okay, yes, excellent. Well, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Boom. Welcome to another edition of Q&A with the Coach live. So we're doing a live stream right now. If you're new to the channel, I do these live Q&As once in a while. If you have questions, just leave them in the comments and I'll get to as many questions as I can. How's life? Life is good right now. Necessary exercise for MMA. Ooh, that's a good question. There's a lot of stuff you could be doing and should be doing for MMA. As far as exercise, outside of combat sports specific training, what should you be doing? Strength training. You should definitely be doing flexibility training. Do something every day to get stronger. Do something every day to get more flexible. As far as strength training, 3 things I always recommend: pull-ups, deadlifts, and squats. Pulling strength is the most important strength, I think, for fighting. And postural strength, actually postural strength is the most important. Pulling, the second most important. Sometimes they go together, as is the case with deadlifts. Anyway, if you don't do those 3, do them. Dan Ryan says, Coach, mangoes or apples? Gun to your head, you have to give up one now. I'll give up apples because I love mangoes. You put a gun to my head, man. I had to decide. Okay. Once again, if you have any questions, anything you want to discuss in this live stream, go Team Mangoes. Okay. All right, here's a question from Saifullah, who says, what are your thoughts on the gi versus no gi debate? If you can choose only one for self-defense, what would it be? Universal techniques or comprehensive via the gi? Oh, for self-defense, man. I honestly don't think the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu approach to training is particularly good for the concept of self-defense, to be honest. In most gyms, why do I say that? Most Jiu-Jitsu gyms, what happens? You walk in the door, you do some warm-up, you shrimp across the mat, maybe you do some shoulder rolls, some dive rolls, who knows, some jumping jacks and push-ups, and then the instructor's like, okay, guys, let's do this deep half guard technique. And then you rep that out for 30 minutes. And then you roll. And the overwhelming majority of the gyms, what do? They roll from the knees. And there's a lot of nonsense that happens in these sorts of classes. Sport-specific nonsense. And a lot of times it's not even sport-specific. Because in the sport of jiu-jitsu, you start on your feet. In almost every roll, in almost every gym out there, which is obscene, you're starting on the knees. It's silly. But back to the original question, gi versus no gi, which one is better for self-defense? Man, they're radically different. They're radically different. I think as soon as you start dealing with somebody who is familiar with the gi grips and manipulating a gi to their advantage in the context of sparring in a gi, it becomes this very weird type of thing that is so incredibly unique to the sport of jiu-jitsu with a gi on. And a lot of it isn't universal, as you're asking. Some of it, sure, yeah, but a lot of it isn't. "12-ounce or 14-ounce gloves for boxing sparring," says OSG. The number of ounces on your gloves is kind of irrelevant. The amount of control you have on your punches is relevant. So It's not just the number of ounces on the gloves. Every glove is different. I've got some 16-ounce gloves that are rock hard, and when I spar with those on with any amount of power, any amount of pop on those punches at all, it will mark up and cut my training partners. So I only use those ones for bag gloves. I've got some 12-ounce gloves that it's hard to leave marks on people with those ones, even putting a little power on it. So not all gloves are created equal. What you really need for sparring is control. If you think if I have bigger gloves, it's going to make the sparring safer. No, actually more padding over your hand allows you to punch harder, more recklessly with less damage to your hand. It doesn't reduce the amount of force going into your training partner. It may reduce the external visible damage such as cuts and bruises and scrapes and black eyes and so on, but it's more padding is not a license to go crazy, man. It's not. Sweet, we got a super chat from Alejandro who says, karate style to complement MMA box. I'm short and stocky, so you want to train in karate, you're training in MMA and boxing, you're short and stocky, and you want a karate style to complement. Okay? Well, there's a ton of karate styles, man. A ton of them. I'm familiar with about a dozen of them that I've either practiced personally or seen, and a lot of karate practitioners will tell you, our style is the best. No, our style is the best. No, our style is the best. And from my perspective, they're more alike than not. So picking any particular karate style has not nearly as much relevance as just visiting a gym and finding a competent instructor. A competent instructor, a clean training environment, and good training partners are infinitely more important than what the name of the karate style is. So go try them all. Oh man, the questions are flooding in now. I took my eyes off the screen for like 5 seconds and boom, we've got 1,000 questions. Elias Ayele says, I don't have a grappling gym in my area. Can I learn on YouTube? YouTube is a great source of information. You don't have a grappling gym in your area, you will need training partners. So what you need to learn grappling, get some grappling mats and get some training partners. Yeah, you can learn some stuff on YouTube, sure. It's best to have some quality control, someone who knows what they're doing, a qualified instructor. But if you don't have one, the next best thing, get some mats, get some training partners. Learn through trial and error, figure some stuff out. That's better than nothing. Son Goku says, Ramsey, what about community center karate? Is it mcdojo or no? I used to teach martial arts at a community center. Was it a mcdojo? I don't think it was. It is going to depend on who's coaching there, man. What's a mcdojo? A mcdojo is, generally speaking, a bad martial arts school with dishonest practices. Are they trying to nickel and dime you? Are they trying to swindle you? Are they trying to cheat and lie to you? Or are they giving it an honest effort to teach you karate at the community center? Dallas Ellsworth sends in a super chat and says, is it bad to have leg muscles if you're an MMA fighter? No! Leg muscles are awesome. If you are going to get strong anywhere in your body for fighting, work those legs, dude. Leg muscles are awesome. Did you notice I'm always recommending you do squats and deadlifts on this channel? Always talking about that. Why? It's good to be a Quadrosaurus Rex, my friends. And not just that, there is a direct correlation between squatting strength and longevity, how long you will live. A Big Monster sends in a super chat, thank you very much, who says, in fights, we naturally tense up. How does one relax to get through the storm, like Mayweather Khabib or Nassim Hamed. Okay, I'm laughing a little because I was joking around with some of my training partners in a jiu-jitsu class last night. My friend Johnny, he's a blue belt, and he was rolling with a black belt, and he was having a hard time getting squashed a little bit. And as a joke, I call from the sidelines, "Relax, Johnny, just relax. That's all you need to do, relax." And Johnny's getting mad, like, this isn't working. Relaxing, I can't relax. Anyway, it's kind of a running gag we have. Relax, just relax. That's the key. Breathing really is the secret to relaxation. Fighting is the most unrelaxing thing you will ever do. Getting punched, boxing, grappling, MMA, all of it, it's not relaxing at all. And some of the dumbest coaching advice I hear from the sidelines, relax, just relax. Yeah, they know they should be relaxing. They don't know how, right? You're asking how. That's the right question. How do you relax when you're naturally tense? Because that's what naturally happens in a fight. You're right. Breathe, right? Your body will move and react the way that you breathe. That includes how tense you are, right? You can slow down your heart rate through your breathing. If you can control your breathing, you can control everything else about the fight. Now, a lot of what happens with breath in a fight, when we reach a hyperventilating state, you know, when you're breathing heavily, you're not consciously controlling it, it's just happening as a survival mechanism. We don't feel like we have control over that. We have control over the exhaling part when we're in a hyperventilating state, not the inhaling. The inhaling happens automatically, right? Like you're drowning. You just automatically pull in the air, okay? The exhaling, that's different. You can control that. So, exhale, short intervals. Especially in your boxing. You can time the breathing with your steps, with your footwork, with your punches, and you should be exhaling controlled short intervals of exhalation while you make these small, controlled short movements. Try to sync your breathing with your movements. That's going to go infinitely farther to relaxing you in a fight than you would be with somebody just screaming, "Relax!" on the sidelines. Good luck to you. Practice your breathing. Oh, we got another super chat from Jesper, who says, "Greetings from an old Swedish boxer. Keep up the work, man. You rock. You rock too, man." Thank you very much. No question there, but appreciate the super chat. All right. Looks like I missed about 1 billion questions while answering that one. Let's back up a little, see what we got. Paul Polito is in the chat today. He finally made one of these live sessions. Thanks, man. Thanks for showing up. Okay. Angry Engineering says, "What do you do when your trainers don't give you attention in group classes?" Well, that's a good question. If you have a question, you need attention on a question. Maybe raise your hand and say, "Hey, coach, I have a question." Right? What's happening in the group classes? Are you just going through the motions, doing everything your coach tells you to do? All right, guys, let's hit the bag. And you're hitting the bag thinking, "Man, I wish the coach would come over here and give me some pointers on my bag work because I'm not sure if my jab is right." Well, if that's not happening, maybe say, "Hey, coach, can you give me some pointers on my jab because I'm not sure if I'm doing it right?" That goes a long way. Now, if you say that and he's like, "Shut up, kid, just get to work," then maybe we need to reevaluate this situation and the relationship you have with your coach. But ask questions, man. Ask questions. Got a super chat from some guy. Thanks, man. No question there. Just a tip. Appreciate it. But yeah, I can't stress this enough. Ask questions. When I finish teaching a technique, I'll often ask, "Does anybody have any questions?" And usually everybody's like, try not to make eye contact because they feel awkward. They don't want to be the question guy. Be the question guy. Be the question guy in your class, man. If you're a squeaky wheel that needs some grease, ask some questions. What else do we have? Martial artist guy. Anyway, he says, howdy, coach. Howdy, howdy. I have a fight in 4 weeks. What are a few, maybe top 3 things I need to focus on during training camps? Listen to your coaches. Be consistent. You asked 3 things, though. So I give you 2 things. Be consistent. Listen to your coaches. Follow the game plan. Now, if you're worried right now because your coaches aren't telling you anything at all and you don't have a game plan, that's a problem. Be consistent, listen to your coaches, follow the game plan. If your coaches don't have one, if you don't have one, again, that's a problem. So 4 weeks before the fight, establish the game plan so that you can stick to it, follow through. That game plan includes how you're going to attack your training and how you are going to approach the fight itself. Now, I don't know what type of fight it is, if it's MMA, kickboxing, boxing, jiu-jitsu, whatever. But speaking generally across combat sports, that's what you need to do. All right. You're welcome. Let's see if I missed some other questions. Do you think it is possible to be a great fighter while doing school? To be a great fighter while doing school, like high school or college? If you're high school age, I don't think you've lived long enough on this earth to be great at anything yet. Greatness is something that comes with time, man. But can you be a good, competent fighter while studying at the same time, while doing school such as college? Yeah, you can. Absolutely. There's this idea that in order to be a good fighter, you must retire from all other pursuits in your life and only focus on fighting. And here's the problem with that idea, which is you can't train all day, every day. You can't. If you are a professional fighter and your entire life is based around fighting, you're training a fraction of the day. Let's say you're sleeping 8 hours a day, you wake up, you go train, maybe you have 3 a day training session, 2 hours a day, that's 6 hours, okay? You take an hour off in between. There's a lot of loafing around time there. Now let's say you're a more realistic fighter, maybe you got 2 training sessions a day. That's reasonable, 1 strength and training session, 1 technique and sparring session. That's very common. A lot of world champions do that sort of thing. You still have loads of time for the rest of your day. What are you doing with it? I would recommend do something productive because you can't train all day, every day. So, be cool, stay in school, friends. Here's a question from Leuston Fountain, who says, I have 4 years off and on in Muay Thai training. I want to train grappling and my striking, but I don't have access to a gym. What do I do? Plus, I love your content. Keep them coming, brother. Okay, sounds like I answered this question before. Get some friends, get some mats. If you don't have a training facility, you don't have training partners, you got to find some training partners for grappling. Right? You can't just do shadow wrestling. You should do shadow wrestling, but if that's all you do and you never know what it feels like to grapple against another human being, you will never learn how to grapple. Same thing with Muay Thai, right? Half of Muay Thai is grappling. Half of it is the clinch game. If you try double collar ties for the first time in your life and you've just seen it on the internet, I had this experience. Somebody sent me a message on a video I made about Muay Thai clinching, about the various clinches and tie-ups and so on and sweeps. And he said, I tried those double collar ties, and then the guy just postured up and started punching me. Well, no kidding, it's the first time you tried it. It's one of those things you got to troubleshoot. You got to try it again and again. You've got to develop sport-specific strength toward that technique. So what do? Get some mats, get some training partners, start watching some videos, reading some books, and troubleshooting. And log some time on the mat. Log 100 hours on the mat if you want to get any good at it. Any good at it. Delta Music says, what do you think about people like Logan Paul and his brother, good for boxing, or... When was the last time Logan Paul did a boxing match? He's made his foray into pro wrestling recently, tore up his ACL in a pro wrestling match recently. His brother, Jake, recently had a victory over Anderson Silva. He's been beating up the retired legends of MMA lately and making people mad about it. Is it good for boxing? Is it bad for boxing? It's an interesting lesson in boxing because people always talk about how there's big money in boxing. There's big money in boxing for a small percentage of people. And those people are the promoters. Those are the people who promote the fights. A lot of people are mad at Jake Paul because instead of fighting for a promoter, making small amounts of money with challenging fights, he is taking easier fights, being the promoter, and making all the money. And I understand why people are mad, because it feels like cheating. It feels like he's taking a shortcut. You're not allowed to take shortcuts. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps, young man. But at the same time, the more I think about it, the more I realize I can't be mad at the guy. What's he doing? He's cutting out the middleman. And I kind of love it when people cut out the middleman. Now, I don't love the fact that he's beating up a litany of retired MMA fighters and stirring up some controversy. Of course, that's what's bringing attention to him. But the fact that he cut out the middleman, became the promoter, and essentially monetized his amateur experience. He found a way to get paid to train, a way to get paid to be a journeyman boxer. That's kind of amazing. So, is that good for boxing? Well, it's in a way it's bad for the other boxing promoters. It's bad for the promoters who rely on being the middleman. It's great for Jake Paul, though, that's for sure. We have a super chat from Why is the Lion Singing? I don't know why the lion is singing, but let's find out. The Lion is Singing says, is it possible to become a world-class fighter at age 22? Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. It's not very common to find guys who are world-class in their early 20s, but it does happen from time to time. Once in a while, I'll meet a guy who's really young and just ahead of his years mentally, physically, and so on. Some guys at age 22 are barely going through puberty at that point. Some guys are like hulking adult men. And that's true of body, of mind, of learning ability, of fighting ability, etc. So it's possible, yeah. It's kind of interesting, though, that most of the world-class fighters tend to be more around the age of 30, at least in the sport of MMA. The average age of a UFC fighter is 29 and a half years old. That surprises a lot of people because young guys tend to think that's old. That's over the hill. You're old and crusty at that age. No, man, that's barely even reaching the prime of your life. Physically. Verbo, or however you say that, says, why do people who lift heavy things up and down think they can fight? Well, some of them can. I lift heavy things up and down, and I think I can fight. But the real issue there is that most men think they can fight. In fact, the less men fight, the more they think they can fight. The more men fight, the less they tend to think they can fight, because they've been checked by reality. And reality says, hey, there are limits on what you can do. If we haven't had that experience of reality punching us in the face saying, hey, you can't do that, we tend to live in the neighborhood of make-believe. And we tend to grossly overestimate our fighting skills. You definitely should lift heavy things up and down. It's good for you. And it will make you a better athlete. Anything that makes you a better athlete makes you a better fighter. Lord Payne says, what do you think of shadow fighting at full power for 2 rounds and then 1 slower, prioritizing technique? Power is a technique. It is. Generating power is all about technique. Now, by technique, you're probably meaning foot placement, footwork, position. Position is also part of technique, right? You can have wimpy punches, and you can still be an incredible fighter if your position is good. Look at, say, for example, Argentinian boxer, the late, great Nicolino Loche. Look that guy up. Interesting dude. Not a power puncher. He won very few fights by knockout. And he had a world title fight at one point against a Japanese fighter, blanking on the dude's name. But you can watch it here on YouTube. It's an interesting fight. His opponent was a power puncher. His opponent was a dude who would just knock the socks out of people. He had the touch of death. And you see this fight, and Loche he is a movement-based guy, man. He is super evasive. He barely took any damage in that fight. Funny thing, he went into that fight with a cut over his eye. He looked like he got into a brawl before the fight. Right? He's got a cut over his eye going into round 1. His opponent is throwing everything in the kitchen sink in every strike, and Loche is just casually dodging and boom, 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 landing his check hook and his jab, and ends up winning this fight. It's amazing. Technique. Power is a technique. Generation of power is a technique. But also position, that's technique too. Should you work on both? Yes, absolutely you should. Good question. Man, I should really do a film study on Nicolino Loche on this channel. It's some interesting stuff. Not just the evasive maneuvers. He was known as El Intocable, which is Spanish for the untouchable. Because, again, he took very, very few punches in his fights. But the way he set up his lead hook, if you're a power puncher, oh man, which Loche was not. That would be a very interesting film study that most people haven't really touched, because, again, most people just look at his head movement and his evasive maneuvers, which, again, legendary. But watch the way that dude set up his lead hook. Amazing. All right, what other questions do we have? Mo Ru Bonnie says, do you think you need a certain level of talent to be in a fight? Or is it just hard work? Or to be a fighter, I think he means? Or just hard work and dedication enough? Talent comes from hard work and dedication. Unless you're talking about, I don't know, the genetic gifts that you have, like how big your skeleton is, how big your muscles naturally grow without training, etc. Talent comes from hard work and dedication. So, yeah, man. Nobody is born a fighter. We're born babies. We're born as weak, wimpy, helpless babies. Where we go from there, That has everything to do with hard work and dedication. Sweet, we got a super chat from a big monster. Power is a technique. Explain Deontay Wilder then. Explain Deontay Wilder then. You don't think that Deontay Wilder's power is generated from a technical aspect? It just magically comes out of nowhere? Look at the way the man moves. Watch the way he moves his legs, his feet, his shoulders when he punches. If you move the way he moves, you're going to generate power. If you're a smaller guy, obviously a smaller amount of power. If you're a bigger guy, maybe even a bigger amount of power. But study the technique of a way a person moves. Deontay Wilder, I don't know how much study he has put into his punches, but he's doing something right, man. So study successful patterns and copy them. That's what technique is. You study a successful pattern and you copy it. Take, for example, the rhesus monkeys. There are a bunch of rhesus monkeys that live on an island, and they eat coconuts predominantly. And these monkeys use simple tools. They find a flat rock and they find a big round rock, and they put the coconut on the flat rock and they hit it with the round rock and they break the coconuts open. Sounds pretty simple. Something you and I could figure out in a minute. Do you know how long it takes these monkeys to learn this technique? 3 years. It takes them 3 years. They teach their children painstakingly this technique that they learned through trial and error and observation from watching the other monkeys do it for 3 years before the little ones are finally able to do it and feed themselves. That's all technique is observing successful patterns and emulating them. Why is the Lion Singing sends in another super chat. Why are UFC champions mostly wrestlers? Because style? Well, UFC champions are mostly mixed martial artists, but you are right in the fact that most of them have a wrestling background. Most of them wrestled at the collegiate level. Why? Why? Because wrestling is the art of position. Wrestlers know how to train. I've spoken at length about what makes wrestlers different than other people. And it's not just the techniques. I mean, yeah, you need to know how to get your shoulder to the hip. You need to know how to do duck unders and tie-ups and clear ties and cut corners and all that important stuff. That's important. Everybody in the UFC knows how to do that stuff. What's the difference with the wrestlers besides the fact that they know how to do it better? They know how to train. They know how to learn is what I'm getting at. I made a video just recently. What was it called? It's one of my last 3 videos where I talk at length for like 15 minutes about a wrestler's mentality. So go watch my last 3 videos. You're going to get a whole dissertation on what makes wrestlers great, and it's not the technique. Elias Ayele says, can a striker beat a grappler of the same skill level? Anybody can beat anybody on any given day, given enough luck. Can a striker beat a grappler? Yes, this has happened. Remember when Maurice Smith won the UFC title back in the early days of the UFC when he knocked out, was it Mark Coleman, the wrestler? Great fight. And that was an interesting fight because I came from a striking background and I loved the idea of the UFC, but I hated the fact that all the strikers who didn't know how to grapple like me at the time were getting their butts kicked. And then Maurice Smith, this old school kickboxer, comes in and he has this brilliant performance and he wins a UFC title. And I was like, whoa, maybe there's hope for me after all. But I started noticing what Maurice Smith did. he familiarized himself with grappling. He learned how to wrestle enough to get back on his feet and use his kickboxing, which is something that, well, I certainly lacked at the time. That was revolutionary. Can strikers beat grapplers? Yes. Can grapplers beat strikers? Yes. Can people beat people? Yes. There was a comment I read today before I started this live stream. And it was on one of my older videos where somebody asked me a question like, can a Hapkido guy beat, an MMA fighter? And the guy commented, can your body fight? Can your body fight? That was his question. Yeah. That's the operative question there. We have a super chat from Phaser Shorts. That's an amazing screen name. Trump versus Biden in an MMA fight. Who you got? Ooh, man. You know, Trump I think is bigger, but Biden, man, Biden's got that great inspirational quote, man. Do you remember? It's like when you really want to put your mind to get the job done, and then you just gotta or whatever. I don't remember the exact quote, but that was a paraphrasal. I mean, man, with inspiration like that flowing through the president's heart and veins, how could he possibly lose? Oh man, Trump versus Biden in an MMA fight. I love it. I love it. Okay, we got a super chat from Anthony Nguyen who says, how do I know if my cardio is ready for my next fight? I had one smoker and gassed out really fast, and I don't want it to happen again. Okay. Well, how often are you sparring? And how is your cardio holding up while you spar? And that's also a different thing than how you're going to feel in a fight when you're under actual combat stress versus sparring combat stress. It's a different thing, right? At least it's a different thing up here. Gassing out has everything to do with breathing. We talked about this before when the guy said, how do I relax under stress? It has to do with your breathing. If you can control your breathing, your exhaling specifically, you can avoid gassing out. You can relax under combat stress. You don't want it happening. Now, you could do a bunch of exercise. You could do a bunch of difficult circuits. You could swing some kettlebells and do some burpees and do some medicine ball slams and plyo jumps and all this stuff to wear you out and help you improve your VO2 max. And that's good, and maybe you should, and maybe that is the missing link. But gassing out, I've seen tremendous athletes gas out because they stressed out. And they stressed out because they didn't know how to control their breathing. They let their breathing control them. So, Anthony, focus on controlling your breathing. Consciously control your exhaling. Keep it short, synchronized with your movement. Breathe the way that you want to move. Coach Chonko says, wow, Ramsey, don't mention the evil VO2 max. All right. We'll just talk about breathing. Crawd92 says, Ramsey, when you had a double-jointed student, did you notice any submission in BJJ working well for him? Also, any strikes that would work well with it? So, yeah, I had this student who had crazy double-jointed elbows and knees and shoulders, and so nobody could catch him with a joint lock. He was not difficult to choke out, though. Were there any submissions that worked well for him? The submissions that worked well against him were chokes, obviously. The ones that worked well for him, his weird double-jointedness really didn't turn him into a jiu-jitsu phenom. In fact, more than anything, they just kind of made him weaker. When you are extra flexible, especially when you have hyper-flexibility, it makes your joints weaker, which is more of a liability than anything. Bane sends in a super chat, says, "You got me onto Gabriel Varga, so thanks. He said recently that he doesn't check leg kicks. Instead, he conditions his thighs. What are your thoughts?" Yeah, Gabriel Varga's a cool guy, man. Love his channel. Go check him out if you haven't already. And yeah, I saw that video where he talked about fighting. Oh, what was his name? Blanking on the kickboxer's name. A kickboxer who loves throwing leg kicks and counts on getting the guy's weight on the back leg. Gabriel Varga did not. Was it William Harrison? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, he's fighting William Harrison. Harrison wants to get Varga's weight on his back leg by having him check the leg so that he can exploit that weakness. And so instead, Gabriel Varga puts his weight forward, eats the leg kicks, and counters with his right hand, and ends up winning. Is that a viable strategy? Yeah. Now, does that mean you should never check a leg kick? No. In that video, Varga is discussing a very specific game plan to beat a very specific fighter. Now, can you make your legs, your thighs, much tougher than other people's? Heck yes, you can. Yeah, man. You can do that through taking kicks in training, as Varga pointed out. You can do that through strengthening your legs, do some squats and deadlifts, turn your legs into tree trunks, so when people kick you, their kicks bounce off you. I like doing a lot of other things besides checking kicks. Checking kicks generally is the last thing I want to do. If I can avoid the kick, if I can counter the kick, if I can catch the kick, that's the first thing I want to do. That is my main defense against a leg kick, is catch it. So I will bait people into throwing leg kicks at me by first throwing a very quick, just a quick stinging one at them. Not trying to cut into the leg or chop their leg down, but just a quick one, an annoying one. Because when people are annoyed, they'll try to kick you back and they'll try to one-up you. When they do that, boom, catch the leg kick, boom. Pull that leg that you're holding onto and punch him right in the mouth. Man. So that's a legit video. We have a super chat from a big monster who says, "Last question for me, I think. How does one identify a mcdojo from an actual legit fighting school? Also tell me, where's Captain Krav Maga?" Okay, Captain Krav Maga is probably flying over Germany somewhere right now, I think. And he's probably training some soccer moms over at the local community center there in some lethal, deadly military killing techniques that the Israeli army uses. How do we identify a mcdojo from an actual legit fighting school? As I said before, a mcdojo is a place that has shady and dishonest practices. They're trying to nickel and dime you. They're trying to cheat you out of your money. They are trying to lie to you. They are trying to bamboozle you. And I would recommend, if you haven't already, check out Rob at mcdojo Life. His whole mission on YouTube is to expose mcdojos, and it's not just about bad technique. Most of it's about bad practices. Because there are a lot of great, honest people who are not great martial artists, and they're not great martial arts instructors, but they give it the old college try. They do what they can. They're honest about what they can do. Take, for example, let's say you have a blue belt, and he's running a Jiu Jitsu school. And he says, "Hey, everyone, I'm a blue belt." He advertises this on his website. And he tells you straight up, these are my abilities, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, this is what I can do, this is what I can't do. If you want to come train with me, here I am. You go to this guy's school, he's not a black belt, he's not a world champion, he's none of these things, but he's honest with you. You know exactly what you're getting into. Is that a mcdojo? No, absolutely not. Let's say there's a black belt, a legitimate black belt, but this guy's a rapist and a pedophile and a liar and a fraud. Is that a mcdojo? Heck yes, it is. We want to avoid that one. So, how do you identify a mcdojo? If they are not giving you what you pay for, if they're trying to cheat you, if they're pedophiles, if they are some cover-up for something else, yeah, it's a mcdojo. Or if you're simply asking, is it a really bad martial arts school? Well, if you know anything about martial arts, you should be able to tell right away. If you don't know anything about martial arts and you're just asking, like, how do I find a good martial arts school and avoid the bad ones? Try out a few different ones. Try out all the martial arts school is in your area, and you'll see some differences. Check for a few things. Is the gym clean? That's a big one. Is the gym clean, or is it a place that's going to give you tetanus and a staph infection? If not, maybe don't go there. Anyway, we have some more super chats from Phaser Shorts, who says, Jiu Jitsu versus Steven Strangles people, who wins? Oh, that's a good question. It's a good question. We got two Jiu Jitsu black belts, great YouTubers, both great guys that I love and follow on YouTube. Jiu Jitsu versus Steven Strangles. I've seen a lot more of Chewy's rolling than I've seen of Steven's rolling. So this is hard to call. I can't really make a technical breakdown without having observed a substantial amount of what these folks have both recently done. Steven's channel is mostly a talking head video. Again, Chewy's channel is mostly talking head, but again, I've seen more of Chewy's live rolling and even Chewy's MMA fights when he was doing that back in the day. So it's hard to say. I honestly don't know. I wish I could give you an honest answer, but I don't know. It's one of those things you'd really have to see. Joe Benches sends in a super chat and says, UFC champion versus world-class street fighter. Who wins? What's a world-class street fighter? A world-class street fighter. Ken, Ryu, Chun-Li, Dalsim, M. Bison. Are these world-class street fighters? I don't know, man. A UFC champion versus a world-class street fighter. Give me the best street fighter, the best hand-to-hand combatant on the streets. Who is he? I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think we're going to see a very high level on the streets, because who fights on streets? Immature people, for the most part. People who don't know any better, the ones getting into street fights. These folks fighting for free. Why the heck would you fight for free? It's like, accountants don't come up to people on the streets and be like, let me do your taxes for you for free. No, man. I'm going to give the nod to the UFC champion. Maybe there's some street fighter out there who is 300 pounds of muscle and he can sprint faster than anyone and he's got all the athletic attributes and he's amazing and he's got a baseball bat in his pant leg. I don't know, man. But in hand-to-hand combat, I will give it to the guy who specializes in hand-to-hand combat rather than the weekend warrior. We got another super chat from Eric G. Thank you very much, Eric. He's been waiting patiently while I answered the other super chats. Eric G says, while I've never even sparred in my life, I'm a solo game dev. Is that developer? I'm not up on the gaming lingo these days. I've been watching you for years, and I love your analytical and logical approach to the topics you cover. Keep on keeping on. Awesome, man. No question there, just kind words from Eric G. Thank you very much, my friend. Yeah, man, I've had a few students who worked in game development, various aspects of producing games. I had some students who worked on some of the UFC games for Xbox. I've had one of my students worked on one of the Batman Arkham games, and they had various jobs they worked on within that industry. So yeah, it's interesting how game development, game creation, game artwork, etc. crosses over with getting out there and training. So I'm glad that you're getting out there and training and enjoying the channel, man. Thank you very much. Bane says, Ryu is the best Street Fighter. His duffel bag is full of money from his winnings. This is something I've wondered about. Street Fighter, the video game, Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter the World Warrior, etc. Was it ever implied that there was a cash prize for the Street Fighter tournament? I like in game, it was never implied there was a cash prize. Like if you see the ending of every character, it's never like, and they took the prize money and did this with it. That never happened. So did Ryu actually win money from the Street Fighter tournament? I just always assumed it was a let's see who's the best at fighting just because. So I don't know, man. That's a question I have for you gaming nerds who are up on the Street Fighter lore. I want to know. Was there a cash prize for the Street Fighter video game tournament? Rafaela Garcia says, hello, Dewey. Hello, Dewey. Well, my first name is Ramsey, my last name is Dewey. So you can call me Mr. Dewey, you can call me Coach Dewey, but hello, Dewey. It sounds strange. Sounds strange to call people by their last name like that. Anyway, hello, Dewey. What do you think about Floyd Mayweather doing exhibitions despite being so old? I still do exhibitions despite being so old, man. Despite being old and blind in one eye and all this other stuff, and my elbows hurt, my knees hurt, and all this, I still do exhibitions. I did an exhibition fight not too long ago to help promote a new gym that was opening up. And yeah, lots of fun. Exhibitions are fun. Dallas Ellsworth sends in a super chat and says, does life become less fun when one starts to age? No. Not in my experience. In my experience, it's become more fun as I start to age. I know young people are often terrified of getting old and dying and all this stuff. I suppose now I'm closer to death than I was as a young man, and yet as a young man I feared death more, and as an older man I feared death less. And that has a lot to do with getting your life in order. As I've become older, more windows of opportunity and possibilities of what I want to do have opened up for me than were available as I was younger, so there's more fun available. Also, my idea of fun has changed and shifted a lot over the years. When I was a kid, fun was about being entertained. As an older person, as a 44-year-old man, fun is about making my own fun, if you will. Setting goals and accomplishing them, man. Phaser Shorts sends in another super chat. Awesome, man. Have you ever been to Japan? If not, would you go? I still have yet to go to Japan. I've almost gone to Japan a number of times. I almost went there for a number of different fights that ended up falling through. It was always a dream of mine to go to Japan, fight in Japan. My wife wants to go to Japan. She keeps bugging me saying, we need to go to Japan. And then COVID hit and we couldn't travel anywhere. And it's still a whole big thing over in this side of the world. So, yeah, I would like to go to Japan one day. See what's up over there. Shout out to my friends living in Japan. Alt F4 says, hey coach, is Kyokushin body conditioning legit, or is it just an illusion like making a shin harder by kicking a heavy bag? Generally what people mean by Kyokushin style body conditioning, they mean taking hits to the body while minimizing the damage. That is done through breathing. It's done through breathing. You have to strengthen your core muscles, obviously, but it's done through breathing. You tense up the muscles to a certain extent. You release some of the air in your lungs as you get hit. Not all, just enough, just a bit. And you take the hit. If you're not braced properly, if you're not breathing properly for taking a hit, and you get hit, it'll knock the wind out of you instead of being able to control that on your own terms. So it's not the same thing as shin conditioning. Shin conditioning is calcifying your shins, deadening the nerves on your shins. Body conditioning is really... it's conditioning a movement pattern more than anything else, a breathing pattern. So, yeah, not the same thing. Joe Benches sends in a super chat and says, have you heard about Andrew Tate? Yes, I finally heard about Andrew Tate. People have been asking me this question for months, and I didn't know who this guy was. And I wondered, who's Andrew Tate? Some people even sent me questions saying, look, this guy is like Andrew Tate, except he's got a whole different worldview, but he's bald and Andrew Tate is bald, and so they're basically the same human. You'd be shocked. If you shave your head, you will instantly be compared to every other human being on the planet with a shaved head. You will. So, yeah, man, the first video clip I ever saw of Andrew Tate online, he's having a conversation with this young man who says, what's the fastest way to get six-pack abs? And Andrew Tate cuts him off and he says, why does it have to be fast? That got my attention. Why does it have to be fast? If it's instantly granted to you, then it's worthless, right? If there's no work, no suffering, you don't have to work for it, then it's valueless. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. Got my attention. I listened a little bit more. There's a lot the man has to say. What I think is so fascinating about the Andrew Tate story is the fact that he got canceled off of social media. And that's nothing new. People are getting canceled off of social media right and left. But more so the fact that getting canceled off of social media made him more prominent on social media than ever before. So that's a fascinating story right there. Anyway, if you have any specific questions about Andrew Tate, let me know. But yes, I've heard of him. At this point, I've heard of him. And if Ramsey Dewey has heard of somebody on the internet, then they must be a big deal on the internet at some point in time. All right, what other questions do we have? Sweet, we got a super chat from DTV with a Korean name that I can't read because I don't read Korean, who says, is BJJ or Sanda watered down in China these days? Is BJJ or Sanda watered down in China? No. If you go into a Sanda camp, you will learn Sanda. You will train how to fight in Sanda. You will learn all the punches and kicks and throws of Sanda. You will get in the ring or up on the lei tai and you will fight for real. If you water it down, you'll get hurt badly. Is BJJ watered down in China these days? No, man. BJJ is on the up and up in China these days. When I first arrived here in Shanghai, there was, I believe, 2 BJJ schools in all of China. There was a small gym in Beijing, and there was a small gym here in Shanghai that was run by 2 guys who were blue belts at the time. I believe they're both black belts now. And yeah, BJJ has exploded since then. It's exploded. So they've got some great competitions going on all over China now. The sport is expanding. They've got legitimate Chinese black belts now, which, man, I remember back in the day thinking, man, it's going to take forever. It's going to take forever for this sport to really get roots in China. So Chinese Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners take the sport very seriously. They take it very seriously. They're not watering it down. They have lofty expectations for the sport. I think in the West we see a lot of people watering it down. And it's going the way that Taekwondo went and karate went and all these other combat sports and martial arts went, but at this point, people are still taking jiu-jitsu very seriously in China. So, no, man. If you go to an average jiu-jitsu gym in China, you're going to have a pretty good experience. Dallas Ellsworth sends in a super chat, says, do you think Li Jingliang won his last fight? I didn't see his last fight, man. I did not watch this last UFC yet. So, yeah, man, I generally watch the UFC events ex post facto, sometimes a week afterward. Why specifically? Because I'm in church when it's airing here in China. So, yeah, I haven't seen it yet. So I'm going to have to watch that and get back to you. What did you think, Dallas? Was it like a... So I don't know the ending. You can spoil it for me. Was it a controversial decision or something like that? What happened? Mo Rubani says, is running the most effective cardio in your opinion? Running is the most effective form of training your cardio for running. And literally nothing else. Yeah, man. Just like swimming is the most effective form of training to train your cardio for swimming. Bicycling is the most effective form of training cardio for biking. Now, are you asking, is running the most effective form of training cardio for fighting? No. Does it have some athletic crossover to fighting? Yes, it has some. Does it have an incredible lot? Not as much as you might think. Probably the most valuable thing from running, particularly distance running, would be controlling your breathing. If you can translate controlling your breathing while running over to controlling your breathing for fighting, then there will be athletic crossover, but a lot of people fail to connect those dots. And there are some phenomenal runners who will gas out instantly as soon as they start sparring. I've seen this many, many times. What is the most effective cardio conditioning for fighting? You know what? Sparring isn't terrible. Bag work, mitt work, shadowboxing isn't terrible, man. Essentially, the closer to the activity you can make your cardio training, generally the better. Of course, I would also recommend if you want to up your cardio, then you are going to have to push yourself past the comfort zone, because you might be in a school where you, when you're sparring or hitting the bag, you get comfortable and you feel good and you feel like you can do it all day. Okay, that's great. How about on the breaks, add some intervals that exhaust you and put you into a hyperventilating state, and then spar, then hit the bag, then do the mitt work, then do the shadow boxing. See how you feel, see how you perform, see how you're able to control the breathing when it feels uncontrollable. That's going to make a big difference, a much bigger difference than long distance running. Paul Polito said, Zhang Weili, I saw the end of her fight. She got a crucifix on Carla Esparza. That kind of surprised me to see this fighter, best known for her striking, out grapple the wrestler. So that was interesting. That was cool. It's one of my favorite positions. A crucifix, man. Phaser Short says, what are some beef and chicken dishes you like to cook? I don't get fancy with beef and chicken. I eat them a lot. I eat a lot of steak. I just like cooking steaks, man. So about once a month, I will go and I will buy a big old chunk of beef and just chop it up into steak, stick it in the freezer, just cook one of those every day, man. It's one of my favorite foods, just a big piece of steak. I'll eat a couple chicken breasts, just grill the chicken breasts, just plain, maybe put a little barbecue sauce on it for taste, you know, or chop them up and put some onions and green peppers or something like that in with it. I don't get too fancy with the meat. And I think this is something that I inherited from my mother. My mother was born right before World War II. She spent her early childhood with Nazis dropping bombs over her city, and much of her early years dealing with war rationing. And so just basic food was a treat. So my mom doesn't put spices or salt or seasonings on anything. She doesn't make anything fancy. Everything is just simple and plain. And part of that is old-timey British culture, but another part is the fact that just the simple joy of simple food is all she needs, and that's something I got from her. So, you know, just the simple joy of simple food is amazing. Scott Curie says, what separates the Dagestani style from the rest? They seem to be dominating the UFC. Okay. The Dagestani style. How many fighters from Dagestan are there in the UFC? I mean, there's Khabib and there's that one other guy. But I don't know about Dagestan specifically, but I've trained with a lot of fighters from former Soviet countries, from Russia, from Ukraine, from Kazakhstan, from all these other former Soviet republics, and they're different. They have a different mentality. They train differently. They're just generally tougher people than most other humans on this planet. The way they train is simple and it's repeatable, and this is very important. They train hard, but they also train smart. It's possible to train smarter and harder, and they're consistent. Like the consistency is a big thing. One other thing I noticed about my all these Sambo fighters that I used to train with. There's something about the camaraderie of being surrounded by strong men. Think about this for a moment. How many of you lift weights, you go to the gym, and maybe you're trying to do a deadlift PR or something like that. And you're by yourself, and it's like you're pulling it up, and it doesn't really matter because no one's watching. It's not on film. Who cares? And so you give up on it. You bail on the lift, and you're like, I'll try tomorrow, right? But contrast that with the fact that you've got like 6 strong dudes surrounding you, watching you, cheering on, like, yeah, lift it, bro, lightweight, baby. And it energizes you, and you just have to perform. You have to perform. You can't let your gym bros down, man. There's something about this this Russian camaraderie that I noticed, and the way these guys would cheer each other on. They'd always be saying, robota, robota. I'm probably mispronouncing that. Work, work. Always telling each other to work, always cheering each other on. And it's empowering. It's the most performance-enhancing thing ever, man. It really is. When you are surrounded by a group of like-minded strong men that want you to succeed, and their success is contingent on your success, it creates this synergy. It's like this symbiotic relationship of strength that just makes you stronger and better and more technical. Man, it's a testament to the fact that combat sports is not a solo sport. It's a team sport, even though there's one guy in there. So let's go back to your Dagestani fighter question. Think about, okay, when these guys walk out, do they come out by themselves? No, they come out together. When they leave, when they win, they celebrate together. Because it's a group effort. And it's not that nobody else has a group effort, nobody else has a training camp, nobody else is surrounded by strong guys. It's just that it's an entire culture of that, as opposed to an enclave, a cultural enclave like that. Anyway, that was my takeaway from it. We have a super chat from Joe Benches 205 who says, is it likely to be world-class in MMA in 5 years? Meaning, within 5 years, could you become a world-class MMA fighter? That's a possibility. That's a possibility. Now, there are a lot of contingencies going on there. There are a lot of variables. How athletic are you? How much do you know already? What's your work ethic like? Okay. What's your physiology like? What's your psychology like, etc.? How quickly do you learn things? Is it possible to be world-class in MMA in 5 years? Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. When people talk about how many years they've been training martial arts, I hear this most from like old dudes wearing like a karate gi and they're morbidly obese and they've got like a 8XL black belt wrapped around. They're like, I've been doing martial arts for 50 years. And I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure? Maybe you how much actual martial arts did you pack into each year? Now, I'm not trying to fat shame the fat belts here, but maybe I am a little bit. Maybe I am a little bit. Maybe I'm going to get canceled from the internet here for that. Is that something that happens these days? I don't know. But people always talk about how many years they've been training martial arts, and I think that's a mistake. How many hours have you actually put in? And not just hours, how many quality hours have you put in? I went to a Jiu Jitsu class yesterday, not a class I was teaching, but a class a friend of mine was teaching, and we spent 2 hours on the mat. And I ended up rolling for approximately 12 minutes out of those 2 hours. And I had a couple of good rolls, but overall, I don't think it was the best use of time for the class, and I'm not going to critique my friend and say badly done. I mean, he's fairly new to coaching, so he's learning. I've been through this. I've taught some horrible stinker lemons of classes when I was starting out, man, where I wasted people's time, including my own. But how much value are you getting from each hour that you're putting into training? How much value are you getting out of each year of training? I put up a video a few years back of my former student Karen before she moved to Australia, this Chinese girl, and she was a tennis player, so that was her athletic background, a tennis player. And she trained with me for 3 months in jiu-jitsu, boxing, and mixed martial arts. And I put up a video of us rolling together. Just a narrated rolling session with a student who'd been training for 3 months, and I got a ton of comments saying, "You're a liar. She's been training for years." No way. She has not been training for 3 months. She's not a white belt. Stop lying to us. And there's no lie, there's no deceit there. Again, this is a girl who not just was a dedicated practitioner of martial arts, but she had a good coach who didn't waste her time, is what I'm telling you. You can get a lot done in a little bit of time if you intelligently program that time. Dude, follow a program. You want to get stronger, for example? I'm going to give another shout out to my friend Zach Tellender. Go over to his channel. It's about weightlifting. He offers weightlifting programs. They're not expensive. They're not expensive. He offers phenomenal weightlifting programs for nominal prices. If you want to get strong, if you want to improve your lifts, go buy his program. It's not expensive. But more importantly, follow the program. It's intelligently designed programming that will give you results in a reasonable amount of time. Okay? And that's weightlifting, right? You can do the same thing with martial arts. You don't have to waste 50 years getting fat to brag to people, "I've been doing martial arts for 50 years and I still don't know what I'm doing. And I'm still out of shape and obese." You can get a lot done in a short amount of time. Okay, what other questions do we have? Did I miss a super chat? Lord Payne says, Juju Pepe tried to do a super chat but missed his question, coach. Could you read it? Let me see. Let me back up. Where's Juju Pepe? Juju Pepe sent in a super chat that says, Ron, it's just a super chat, no question, but a monetary donation. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Let me back up a little, see if I missed another one. I think I got them all. Yeah, so Juju Pepe sent in a super chat. No question, but I appreciate it. Let me see. Maybe he sent in the super chat and then left a question in the comments here. I don't know. If you see Juju Pepe's question, please let me know. Oh, there it is. That's exactly what he did. He wrote the question separately from the super chat. So if you don't know, if you send in a super chat, you can write the question on the super chat post, and then it will be highlighted, and so I'll be able to see it quite easily. So Juju says, "Hey Ramsey, my name is Rares. I have epilepsy, and my question is whether I can still learn anything if I go to a boxing gym without risking getting injured, for example, getting hit in the head." Okay? Talk to the coaches at the boxing gym. Let them know of your issue, of the epilepsy, that, you know, you can't be getting hit in the head. There are a lot of boxing gyms, boxing trainers that can accommodate you in this fashion. If they won't accommodate you, if they say, "Get in the ring and spar with this dude who's going to punch you in the head and knock you out," yeah, maybe don't go to that gym, right? There are a lot of gyms where you can learn the technique, you can box, you can train, you can hit the bags, you can hit the pads, you can shadow box, you can go through all the motions, you can get physically fit, right? You can do everything the fighters do but fight, right? That's great. Nothing wrong with that. You're not a poser if you do that, right? Just make sure that the coaches, the trainers there know what your goal is and that you know what your goal is, right? Nothing wrong with that. Go do it. Get out there and train. It's going to be awesome. Good luck to you, my friend. So yeah, you can train without sparring. Does that mean you'll be a great fighter? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. You have to spar to be a good fighter, right? But again, if getting hit in the head is going to ruin your life, then don't fight, don't spar. Not everybody needs to fight. Everybody should train. Not everybody needs to fight. Holy Shade says, with no prior martial arts experience and only training Brazilian Jiu Jitsu for about a month, what are some things that I really need to drill as a beginner? No prior martial arts experience and only training BJJ for about a month. What are some things you really need to train as a beginner? Oh, that's a good question. Positional improvement is the first thing that comes to mind because when you're a beginner, you're probably going to a lot of classes where the teacher is showing you some cool sweeps from half guard and some neat submissions that you can catch people with. But what you really need to focus on as a beginner, you're going to get stuck in some bad positions. People will mount you. They'll get you in knee mount. They'll get you in side control. They will be controlling you. They'll get you in back mount. And you won't know what to do there, and you'll end up tapping out a lot when you otherwise don't need to because you don't know how to improve your position. Notice I didn't say escape, because the goal of a fight is not to escape, it's to dominate. So make that your goal first of all. You're not going to escape a bad position, you're going to improve a bad position. You're going to go from bad to better to superior. So, if you don't know how to escape mount, fix that. Learn some mount escapes, get good at a couple of them, right? They're going to teach you things like shrimp to escape the mount. And if that's all you know, all the guy will do is just keep scooting up on you, riding you, and you'll never get out. So you need a plan B. Learn something like an upa, a bridge and roll, right? Learn how to trap a leg and get into half guard from full mount, and then how to use that half guard to get up or get on top. So learn positional improvements from all the bad positions, all the scoring positions. Learn how to escape from knee mount. Oh, I just said escape. Badly done, Ramsey. Badly done. So learn how to improve your position from knee mount. Learn how to improve your position from side control. Learn how to improve your position from back mount and how to capitalize on that. When you do that, you're going to find that you can roll with most people forever without tapping out. And then you can start to learn things. Then you can start focusing on your offense. At the same time, start focusing on your offense and start focusing on it early on. Guard passing, man. That's important. Learn a couple of guard passes. But also guard retention, that boring thing. When people make videos about it, exceptionally good videos about it, nobody watches them. Nobody watches the guard retention videos. Shame, shame, shame on you. Watch the guard retention videos. I have a few on my channel. There are some excellent guard retention videos out there. Lachlan Giles probably put out the best guard retention video series that I know about. If you have poor guard retention, your jiu-jitsu is crap. At any level. At any level. And it's not complex things you need to do. It's just a few consistent cues you need to follow that will instantly make your jiu-jitsu better. As far as guard retention goes. There are a lot of things you have to grind at. You have to grind at improving position when you're in a bad spot. But you can instantly improve your jiu-jitsu with guard retention cues. Like again, watch Watch that Lachlan Giles series. It's free. It's on YouTube. There's a lot of great jiu-jitsu content you got to pay for. Not that. Go watch it. Go watch it. It'll change your game. It'll bring you from the white belt that everybody squashes to the white belt that gives everybody problems in the guard because they'll be like, we can't pass his guard. Oh man, better give this kid a blue belt already. Milo Fitness says, what is your opinion on traditional training methods? For example, punching candles from a distance, the horse stance, etc. Punching candles from a distance, is that a traditional training method? I thought that was just a trick. When I was a teenager, I was watching Kung Fu with David Carradine, and there's this episode, or was it Kung Fu The Legend Continues, also with David Carradine? But there's this episode where in the Shaolin Temple, he's like punching at candles from a distance and putting out the flame. And then later in the episode, he has a flashback, and he needs to distract some bad guys, and so he like punches toward, or palm thrusts toward these leaves on the tree, and then they shake, and the bad guys look like, what's that over there? And then he sneaks behind their back while they're distracted. I'm like, I wonder if that would work in real life. So I lit a bunch of candles and I tried to put them out from a distance, and it's shockingly easy to do, especially if you have long sleeves like David Carradine did in the TV show, because it creates wind that pushes wind into the direction that you're thrusting your arm if you got big sleeves on, man. What do I think about that? It's a fun little parlor trick. Does it make you better at fighting? No, not even a little bit. We have a super chat from RRTNZ who says, big fan of your content, coach, MMA, and religious. If you didn't know, I've started a new channel. It's tentatively called Ramsey's Religion because I talk about religion and philosophy and life, the universe, everything you want to talk about there that isn't specifically combat sports related stuff and the general topics of this channel. I know sometimes I talk about religion on this channel, but I get so many questions about it that I recently decided I'm going to dedicate an entire channel to this stuff because I want to publish a lot more content. I want to publish a lot more videos that I'm currently doing. And when you publish a lot of videos, especially a lot of videos on different topics on one channel, too often the YouTube robots tend to punish you and send your channel into the realms of obscurity. Anyway, on to the question. Big fan of your content, coach, MMA and religious. What do you recommend for the over 50? A bit overweight. I've done traditional martial arts for 30 plus years. I got dodgy joints. Dudes, I'm one. I did a little boxing and judo too. Cheers. Okay. Sorry, got cut off for a moment there. I'm not sure why. But, okay. RRTNZ is over 50. He's been doing traditional martial arts for about 30 years, and he wants to know what I recommend. He's a bit overweight. He's got dodgy joints. What do you do? Besides get out there and train, obviously. I assume you want to make some improvements. You want to have less dodgy joints. Maybe you want to be less overweight. Maybe you want to feel better and stronger. Okay, this is all achievable even over 50. Even over 50. I'd recommend watch a podcast I did with my friend Matt Grant. At the time, he was a purple belt IBJJF world champion, I think in the Masters 7 division. He started jiu-jitsu in his mid-50s. And he lost a bunch of weight, he got in shape, and he went out there and became a world champion at every belt level from white belt to black belt. Super inspirational story. And we talk about this, and when I say it like that, it sounds easy. It sounds like, oh, he just got up and did it. No, it was a whole process. And so Matt explains this whole process. And he explains it's not just this pick up and play easy sort of thing that anybody can do just because he did it and he was an older guy, right? It's something that takes work and consistency, and you have to take care of your joints. You have to take care of your body. You've got to make rehab and prehab a way of life. Like right now, I'm dealing with some joint issues in my elbows, and there are some certain causes for that, old injuries and so on being aggravated. And what I have to do personally at age 44 to keep doing what I do every day is make rehab and prehab a way of life, not simply something that is done ex post facto after you get injured. Like, do it before you get injured. Remember the old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So make sure you're spending every single day, adding that ounce of prevention to your life. And it's going to add up in a big way. And it's going to improve your quality of life for the rest of your life. Thank you for the question. Let's see here. What other questions do we have? We've been going at this for a while, and we still have a ton of questions here. Leacham Nair, I don't know how to say this name, says, be careful what you say in those religious videos because people might do response videos to them and try to debate you and stuff. Attention, you might not want to have, people might want to debate me and stuff. Okay, cool. If you guys want to debate me, make videos and stuff and challenge my viewpoints. If you have viewpoints that challenge mine, if you feel that is something you want to talk about. For example, our friend Sam Sung says sola scriptura, which means scripture only. It's a Protestant tenet. I think it was it Martin Luther or was it what's his name? John Calvin? Was it John Calvin who had the three solas? Anyway, I'm not a Protestant. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, colloquially known as the Mormons, and no, sola scriptura it's not a dogma that I follow. No. Anyway, if you want to debate me on that, make a video about it. We can have some discourse. We can do podcasts about it on my religious channel if you want. Anyway, Master Wise Guy sends in a super chat and says, would you fight a street fight champion record 300-0? What is the paycheck? What's the paycheck? What am I getting paid for that fight? I don't see any dollar signs in that equation. If there are no dollar signs in that equation, the answer is no. Professional fighters don't fight for free, man. If you give me a high enough price tag to make a fight make sense, then that fight makes sense. If that fight doesn't have that, doesn't make sense. No reason to fight for free, friends. Lord Payne has asked this question a number of times. He wants to know about my opinion on a book I have not read called Boxing. I haven't read it, so I don't know what to say. Sorry about that. So no sense asking that question again and again. Haven't read the book, sorry. Maybe I'll look it up. Okay, Zivis wants to know, hey Ramsey, I wanted to ask what are the pros of half guard since I'm new to the sport and the concept is kind of confusing to me. I love the content, keep it up. Half guard is halfway between the bottom and the top. You're essentially on one side of your opponent. You have an underhook, you have one of your opponent's legs trapped between your legs, you're halfway out on one side. You can use this in the context of MMA to get up. You can use it to get up and get a reversal and take your opponent down. You can use this in the context of Jiu Jitsu to sweep your opponent and get on top. So, yeah, that's what half guard is. It's halfway from the bottom to the top. So, I know in sport Jiu Jitsu, a lot of people develop game plans around playing from half guard. And that's fine in the sport of jiu-jitsu, but if it's your first exposure to jiu-jitsu and to half guard, a lot of the stuff that you'll see in tournaments can be very confusing. So to simplify half guard, once again, it's just imagine for a minute you're stuck on the bottom. The guy's mounted you. He's straddling you. Not half guard, right? He's straddling you. He's got his legs over your chest, knees in your armpits, and you're stuck on the bottom. So let's say you start pushing your way out, and you manage to push one of his legs in between your legs. and then reach up and get an underhook under his arm. Now you are literally halfway out of mount. You have negated half of his ability to strike you, okay? And you've made it essentially 1,000% easier to impose your will, to get out, to get a reversal, etc. I have a few videos about half guard. There are a million videos about half guard here on the internet. Go check those out. Haywood sends in a super chat and says, have you seen Shidokan Karate Triathlon? Heck yes, I have. Shidokan rules. I've been hoping you do a reaction first round, Kyokushin plus Judo second round, kickboxing, Muay Thai third round, MMA rules. Yeah, I've seen it. My friend Franco de Leonardis, he was a Shidokan champion, man. He came to Shanghai a while back, did a seminar at my gym. Good times. Awesome dude. Man, I loved Shidokan back in the day. They actually used to show that on TV. Man, I would watch every fight. It was great, man. Like, whether you're an MMA guy, a kickboxing nerd, a traditional martial artist, it's got something for everything. If you don't know, the format was awesome. I wish they would bring Shidokan back. First round, like Kumite, Kyokushin rules. You could throw the guy and punch him on the ground once. Second round, kickboxing, Muay Thai rules. Third round, they called it grappling, but it was MMA rules. And yeah, awesome combat sport. I loved it. Maybe I should do some commentary on some of those old fights. All right, guys. I'm going to take a couple more questions and then head out in the interest of time. Angry Engineering says, how did Alex Pereira become so good in striking? He started at 21. Must he have elite trainers, or is this pure talent? 21 is the perfect age to start combat sports. It is, man. People think you need to start training when you're a kid, but no, man, 21 is the perfect age to start training, in my opinion. Is he talented? Obviously. Did he have good trainers? Obviously. Did he have some special it factor? Maybe. Maybe he just paid attention. I don't know. You should go ask Alex Pereira. All right, we got a super chat from Master Wise Guy who says, McGregor and Floyd versus Francis Ngannou, who wins? Oh, so we got like a tag team battle? Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor together versus Francis Ngannou. Okay. Ooh. I've been filming a series of videos over the last few months about fighting multiple opponents. I haven't published any of them yet, but and this is a drill I've been doing for years. Is, you know, once in a while just have all my students fight me, or have like 3, 4, 5, 6 guys fight me, and it's tough. Fighting multiple opponents is tough, even if they're like half your size. Because as soon as one of them grabs you, it makes it infinitely easier for the other one to impose their will. Even if they're a crappy grappler, as soon as one of them grabs you, it gets tough. So I would give the nod to McGregor and Floyd tag teaming Francis. So Floyd would distract Francis, McGregor would shoot in and grab him, and then Floyd would start. And yeah, it would be interesting. Maybe it wouldn't turn out that way, but I'm going with the multiple opponents. We have another super chat from RRTNZ who says, thanks for the detailed answer, Coach. Follow-up Star Trek question. Yes! If you had to street fight versus Captain Kirk, Spock, or Worf, who would you fight and why? Okay, Captain Kirk has plot armor. Also, the double-fisted hammer blow is undefeatable. The Captain Kirk judo throw is unstoppable. Spock has the Vulcan neck pinch. So, man, he's got very specific advantages there. Vulcans are stronger, significantly stronger than humans. Even though Spock kind of looks like a skinny nerd, he's not. Because of his Vulcan physiology, it makes him extra super strong. Worf, from this warrior Klingon culture, he looks tough, he talks tough, he's got his batleth. But have you ever seen Worf win a fight? Seriously. Go back and watch Star Trek The Next Generation, and you will see Worf get his butt kicked constantly. He's the fall guy, man. Worf just gets ruthlessly beaten every time a fight breaks out. I want Worf to win. I want him to succeed, but he just doesn't. So I'm gonna have to go with Worf. Because again, Captain Kirk, plot armor, Spock, neck pinch, Vulcan physiology, Worf. Sorry, man. I'm taking Worf. I would punch him in both of his livers. Because Klingons, here's something you might not know about Klingons. Klingons have 2 of each organ that humans have. The idea is to make them tougher, because if one heart fails, then their other heart still beats. But if they have 2 livers, boom, punch them on both sides of the body. Boom, boom. Double liver shots. Oh man, that's a weakness, not a strength. Sorry, Worf. You're going down. Hollywood Jablomi sends in a super chat. We still do triathlon, but no one knows about us. It's like we are a black sheep of karate. Sadly, we still train kata, so people might laugh. He's talking about Shidokan karate, in case you missed that previous question. Shidokan is awesome. Once again, I wish you would come back. We should do a video on Shidokan on this channel. So, with that said, I'm going to check out here. Thank you, friends, for all the questions. Thanks for the super chats. Appreciate those. Thank you for joining us on this live stream. Thank you for watching. Now, get out there and train.